Today we have a phenomenal guest. We have a phenomenal guest today on the Booster Suits podcast with Mr. Johnny Lynum, a real estate mogul that's still on active duty doing great things, and he's also transitioning into coaching um, others and how to make millions too. I'm totally excited about this episode. Hey Corey, what's going on? How you doing there, brother?
Good today, rocking the pineapples, representing Hawaii, having a great time. Sun is out. Looking forward to getting in with this interview. This guy's phenomenal. Tons of units, generating millions of dollars. All active duty. Like this is amazing, man. I'm real excited for this episode and looking to get some real good information from our guy today. So I'm ready to get going.
All right, all right. Without further ado, we want to sit here and first off give Johnny his award for being that guy. Let's go ahead and bring out Johnny. Johnny, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the Booster Suits podcast. How you doing today?
Pretty good, man. Glad to be here with you guys.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
it's a
Appreciate it.
pleasure. It's a pleasure. I was talking to CJ about all the successes, especially when I know all of us being in uniform. So definitely want to give you your reward. I could say flowers, but we're gonna keep it at giving our achievement medals, our awards and medals and stuff like that. Um, because you have made an impact in the real estate arena.
Most definitely, I definitely appreciate it, man. And and I think that's the biggest thing now is just being able to pay it forward and help others that's kind of looking to try to achieve the same things.
Great,
That's
great.
that's great, man. I'm curious. Like, when did you start? When did you feel real estate was where you wanted to go, and while doing active duty? Like, what prompted you to that?
Man, that's a great question because it always you have that pivotal moment where you have that light switch comes on. And for me, I was stationed at the National Reconnaissance Office. I was I guess a senior captain level, and I didn't have that sense of fulfillment. It was still getting off work 4 o'clock, 4:30, and I'm like I got so much more potential. And my wife was a stay-at-home mom. We had made the decision that she was going to stay at home with the kids, and she was pregnant at the time with our second child, our daughter. And it was like, you know what? At that time, we had picked up a couple foreclosures using our VA loan, and we had a couple rentals in Birmingham, Alabama. And it's like, you know what? I'm gonna bet on myself. We can do this. We talked about it. We're like, we're gonna flip a house. And a couple months later, we got something. We bought it off of auction, and went through the whole process and made it happen.
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, you got so many flipping shows. You look at HGTV, somebody flipping here, somebody flipping here. What do you think? Anything that you acquired from the military helped you be successful?
100%, 100%. And that's what us as veterans, a lot of times we don't give ourselves a lot of credit for the skill sets that we have, and we struggle with trying to translate, what we do for the military and bring that to the civilian or private sector or investing in this case. And so for me, it was project management. It definitely was leadership. All of those traits that we pick up and we have to kind of grow into, because day one they could throw you into any type of situation, being in life or death situations, and you got to be able to perform. And with real estate and investing, it's like we manage risk, but at the end of the day, nobody's shooting at you, unless you're investing in the wrong neighborhood or something like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
it's the risk factor is a lot lower. And so for me, it was really project management, leading the team, and I do acquisitions for the Air Force. And so it's like if I can manage contractors, and execute tens on top of tens of millions of dollars every year, I'm like I can flip a $300,000 house and manage contractors, with hammers and sheetrock. And so, and that was the process for me. But definitely, the military played a huge role with giving me that skill set to be able to take that risk and kind of step out on faith to get started.
Yeah,
Wow.
definitely. I could see that. I mean, so how about tell our audience exactly where you're at right now? Well, your accolades, the properties. You wrote a book. You got so many things. Let the audience know who Johnny is.
Yeah, so by first and foremost, a believer, Jesus Christ, I'm a husband, a father of three beautiful kids, my beautiful wife Melissa. And for me, it's all about, faith, family, and service, and in the service that I see this real estate piece as a service now. We're just helping people because I take for granted what I've been able to achieve. You start, writing a book and and just virtually flipping properties, now buying apartment buildings and coaching people, that it's been a great experience. And now it's just looking back over those blessings and how I got there. It's like, okay, how can I help more people have this same type of success and get there a whole lot faster than it took me? And so kind of that's my pivot with my journey now that I got the systems in place and the business is really on autopilot. Because I bought all my stuff down south and I'm in Northern Virginia, but we're buying properties and apartments down in Alabama and then in Panama City, Florida. So
Oh wow. And that's a huge process in itself, to long distance investing, where a lot of money is on the line. I'm pretty sure with, if you have investors involved with that process, nobody want to be in a situation where you putting someone's life in jeopardy as far as finances. So that takes a lot of planning and coordination, I'm sure.
yep,
So
it
I do
does. It
have
does. And that's why I think a lot of it, you have to hire the right people, hire the right professionals to align yourself with. Whereas that, as a leader, you can cast a vision. You can look at the project and say yes, get a thumbs up on the project, and then you hand it off to those that won't fumble the ball. To use a football analogy, that can go and that they've been proven in certain situations, and that they can make sure that we get across the finish line, and not be afraid to step in here and there to help course correct and get them along the way, because there's always going to be challenges. Stuff is going to happen, stuff is going to pop up, but being able to have those risk management things in place. And for us as real estate investors, cash reserves, you got to have some money on the side. You got to make sure that you have really good contractors, and then when stuff is out of stock or they don't do this, you got to help them be able to think outside the box on how to get to yes and get things done still. So but it's a process.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let me ask you a question. So there are so many niches to real estate. So for a beginning service member, when you first come in the military, you're not making that much money on the enlisted side, even some of the on the officer side when you're first coming in. And there's so many niches. How do you advise them when they're sitting here showing they want some interest in doing investing in real estate and just trying to build multiple streams of income? How do you advise them in that regards?
Most definitely, I think that's a great question that I think a lot of young military individuals, they don't necessarily they're not thinking a lot of times down that lane. But it really comes down to, and this is for really anybody, it comes down to the time and money that you have, the resources and that you have at your disposal. And I think one of the biggest resources us as service members have is our VA loan. And so I tell a lot of people the first thing you need to be looking at is owning your own property, your own single family, duplex, triplex, or fourplex, because you can go all the way up to 4 units leveraging your VA loan and 100% financing. So I didn't know that coming into the service. And I think that's one of the biggest things is looking at, leveraging the VA loan as a resource to get that first property. And if you can do multiple doors, even better, but getting that first property, and then not being afraid to look at something where you can force equity. You start looking at foreclosures or short sales or any of those situations. Just across all my PCSs, except for the first house that I bought, we always bought a foreclosure, in those last four moves after my first property I bought. So it's definitely doable in different markets. It's easier, but it's still, I bought my last foreclosure with my VA loan in November 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. And, the housing market was still crazy then, but you still can find deals. So I think using a VA loan, and with that, you got to take action. Don't wait, because time is going to move by. And the best time to buy real estate was 20 years ago or today.
Yeah, that's a
Wow.
common misconception too. You say you bought a foreclosure with your VA loan. I've heard in the past that that's almost an impossible feat. VA come through and do their inspection. Like, yeah, this ain't gonna pass. How do you get around that?
No, great question. Because a lot of people, you had that negative stigma with a foreclosure that it's got, you can walk in the house and you can see out the back wall. The roof is collapsing. And and just depending on where it is, that a lot of times that's not the case. And like the last one that we bought, that they literally, the homeowner association, you would never know that the house was even foreclosed. I don't even think they put a sign in the yard. The grass was always cut. They take care of the lawn, so you just driving by, you'll never know that the house was in foreclosure or anything. It had a new roof. There was, the paint was hideous on the inside. It had this old carpet, but it was built in 2004, and it was like
Wow.
5,400 square feet, and it wasn't an old house, and it just needed paint. It needed new appliances. The appliances still work, but new appliances, because I knew I wanted to get a home equity line of credit. So I knew once they come in and take their pictures for an appraisal, you want to have new appliances, and you want to paint, put new carpet in, and that was really the extent of it, what it really needed. And just kind of knowing that process and not being scared to get into the deal, that worked out. But in a lot of this stuff, man, you just got to step out on faith. We bid at 20,000 over the list price. We were third highest, and over the course of the next 2 weeks, the first two people backed out.
Mm.
But it was meant to be. And we came in, and we actually drove up from Panama City, Florida, to Northern Virginia for the home inspection, and we walked it. And I think one of the reasons that most of the people backed out, we knew the house had a new roof because we found an old listing, but there was water damage in the ceiling, and so a lot of people may not have known that. And then there was some mold on the wall in one of the back rooms in the basement. And of course, I had my stud reader, so it was no moisture, but there, with the high carpet and the door was closed, there was no ventilation in there. And so it was just surface level mold because the air wasn't circulating because it had no power in the building. And so with that, with checking, it's like, okay, yeah, it's mold right there, but it's superficial. It's on the
Right, right.
surface. So we can make an educated decision just from having that knowledge and move forward. And 2 years later, we hadn't had any issues or anything. Thank the Lord.
Oh, that's awesome. Is
Definitely.
that the kind of advice when you calling you for some coaching advice? Is that the kind of stuff that people call you about?
Uh, it varies from that, or just little stuff like, hey, how, when you have cracks in the wall, if they're vertical or horizontal, those two different things mean different things with how a foundation is shifting. So it's just very, you see a lot as you go through, to the point where is that now I can buy houses virtually. I can make offers from just looking at pictures with properties, whereas I kind of manage that risk. Then I let my contractor go in and kind of tell me my blind spots that I missed, and we can go and kind of make decisions. But and that's all the process. Now it's just sharing that wisdom and talking people, because a lot of people don't realize whatever you want to do in life, you got to find a tribe or a group of individuals around you that's trying to do the same thing. Whereas that if you want to be successful, and the more you can be around people that's trying to achieve the same goals, then the more opportunities that you give yourselves to be successful long term.
Wow, that's awesome. Hey, let me ask you a question. Let's talk about your framework. Let's talk about the framework, because with the income that you're producing with all these properties, how do you allocate that those funds and that income, being that you have a massive portfolio?
Yeah, so when you start looking at capital allocation and just how much you need to keep back for reserves, well, that's the great part of being active duty. We got a stable income, we got a stable job, and so for me, it allowed me to be able to step out and take those risks with flipping my first house, my second house, and doing it. Then get to the point where we can do two or three at the same time, and so I think that's the biggest thing. But once you kind of you go through and you diversify your portfolio, whereas that you don't have to live off the income that you're producing from your side business, that now you can just keep reinvesting that capital and you can scale up. Whereas that we bought our first apartment building, we bought an 18 unit in 2020, June of 20, and we sat here and refinanced it a little bit past the 2 year mark. I think we closed July of 22 with the refinance. We were to put all our money out. I paid off the 95K for my investors that were in the deal and paid them out. They were out of the deal. And we took that money and took a subset of the money that the bank gave us tax free, because it was a refinance loan. They gave us money tax free. And we used that as the down payment to put towards this 40 unit that we just bought a couple weeks ago in Montgomery, Alabama, close to Gunner Air Force Base. And it was like, okay, because I don't need the money now. So take that money and just get rid of it and buy another asset that's going to produce $30,000 a month when we finish raising the rents over the next couple of years.
Mm, okay.
Okay, okay.
And so
So
that's
I
the thing, just
assume with
reinvest in the capital.
Right, right. So I assume in that process you got to have a phenomenal team and like tax strategists, lawyers and accountants and stuff. So how do you manage that? Because being in multiple states with your properties and your portfolio, how difficult is that to manage?
No, man, you hit the nail right on the head. That it definitely takes a team. Real estate is a team sport, especially as you start trying to scale up. I have a phenomenal accountant and CPA with Larry Pendleton out of Virginia Beach. Definitely give him a shout out because he's great and phenomenal. I shifted to him a couple years ago. He does syndications on his own, and so I knew that he understood the tax benefits that come with multifamily and owning those buildings, and just how to best leverage that strategy with my flipping business that I still have, and then just all my single family rentals to kind of bring that all together. Whereas that now, we have a holding company that owns these different LLCs that owns the assets. We kind of roll things up, and we got it in the right state. And my wife now, she's a real estate professional from the IRS's standpoint. She works over 750 hours a year in the business, and so now I can take these tax write-offs for my real estate and apply it towards my active duty income because us as a couple, she's a real estate professional, and those losses can wipe out my active income. So it's just having a strategy and knowing people that know the process that can that set you up for long term success.
Definitely.
That's great. And that's what the audience definitely take note of what Johnny just mentioned. You have to have a team, you have to have a strategy, and there's so many things that we just typically don't know of when we're thinking from a employee mindset. We all have to become business owners, and Johnny, you're a perfect example of how you just flip that around and still serving our country. So that's phenomenal.
Yeah, I noticed you said you were in Northern Virginia. I know the prices up there. Yeah, I'm a Intel professional, and so a lot of our jobs is up in Northern Virginia. I got friends that got these 5,400 square foot houses, and I'm in awe, right? I noticed that you do a lot of your real estate purchasing down south. Is it just for the fact that it's cheaper? Is it easier to kind of get a team on board? Like what prompts you to kind of go down there and start acquiring the properties instead of going to the Prince George County and getting you
Yeah, man.
besides the
PG,
30
PG
40
is
million extra,
PG is
right?
hot.
But yeah.
Yep. Yeah, no, and the money was the number one reason. We our first house that we bought in Alexandria that we flipped, Virginia, was 208,000. The second property went that pushed me to Birmingham, man. We did like a $75,000 renovation. We had black mold, we had a pool. We knew all this stuff up front. We had estimates to fix it all, but just going through that process. The next house we bought in Birmingham was 55,000,
Mm.
and we made like 45K in less than 5 months, and it was less work, and we made more money than we did on the house our first one. And so it's like, yeah, we're not doing that again. We just go. I'll set a team up down there. I drove down 10 hours. I met with like all kind of tradesmen and contractors. I put my team together. I leveraged my cousin that was there, and we had a really good realtor who would check on work before I would pay guys. And we got the first building done, and it was good. Sold it. Then we found the next one, so we still had a team who knew who worked well, and we were going good. Then we had one that the guy he lost the he was unable to pay his crew because he didn't get paid by another job, and he lost his guys because he wanted to pay him. And then unfortunately we ran into the situation with that story that him and his wife were trying to finish the job, and we had to fire him virtually, get a new crew, get another company. It was a whole lot more expensive. So you have setbacks, but definitely down south, I love the income because it's a low cost of income to live down there. K Ivy's doing a great job in Alabama being pro business with the industries that's coming in there, and it just allows you whereas that you're not necessarily recession proof, but you're at a point whereas the ups and downs with the market. It's nothing like Phoenix or Vegas, whereas that down south where you don't have a large drop in the values of the property. That's kind of steady. It's affordable, and like right now where we're looking at Montgomery, there's not a lot of new construction on the multifamily side, and so from a competitive standpoint, the units you get new units that are reasonably priced, and you can come in. There's not a lot of new competition coming on the market, so you're really in a good position.
Thank you for that. No, I'm playing. But yeah, I got you. So,
Yeah.
what's your experience using? I noticed you said you had some, investors with hard money lenders. Is that That's something you do.
Yeah, both of those, both of those. So we leverage hard money lenders, and we've kind of grown over the years. But my first one, I learned the hard way. I paid him a heck of a lot more money, and I talk about in my book how my hard money lender made more money on that deal than I did because he did just a flat, simple 10% interest off the top. He was getting paid 10% interest, whether we held it a year or we held it one day. And I learned that the hard way, but it was a learning experience, and it was hard to get not having a track record. And in some of the institutional hard money lenders, it was hard to get money, so you had to pay to play. And so I'm forever grateful I would have still done that deal because what I learned, I still take with me to today. And with that, but you got so many different hard money lenders now in the last few years that the access to capital, that barrier is really, really low now. That there's a lot of people out there competing to give you money to do deals, especially after you get one or two under your belt. And then also along the way, I started raising private money from family and friends to come on as partners with us in our business, whereas they're giving them just a 10% return on their capital. And some of them, they follow individual deals and projects, or some may say, I've had come in like, hey, I'm going to put 50,000 in your business for a year, and then just we get 10% return, use it for marketing and whatever, and then just kind of we'll revisit at the end of the year. And so you just kind of that grows over time as more and more people get exposure and want to learn about how they can kind of diversify their investments and bring some real estate into their portfolio as a lender, or picking up rental property, picking up apartments, or investing in like a syndication or joint venture. There's so many different opportunities where you can kind of diversify from just a traditional TSP, especially after you retire or separate. That you have all that money sitting there and you can't really contribute more. It's like, okay, how can you move that to a self-directed IRA, or how you can get a loan against your TSP to start buying cash flow producing assets to kind of start producing that more passive income.
Okay. So Johnny, let me ask you a question though. A lot of this is require a certain mindset, and if you because it's a ton of challenges, a ton of unknowns, and not every project is the same. What have you found that was your biggest aha moment to get that right that paradigm shift to feel more confident in being able to do those deals?
No, that's a great piece because 100% it starts with the mindset. And for me, it was broke Johnny. It was like, okay, I had a broke man's mindset. I had, because I grew up humble beginnings, didn't have a lot of money. And and I tell people my stories, like when I started as a LT, that coming out of college, I didn't have any financial literacy. My credit was jacked up. I had to have a family member to sign on my lease for my first apartment, and that definitely humbled me. And over the next 10 months, I got my credit together to the point where is that I could qualify for a VA loan when a buddy of mine presented an opportunity for us to buy one side of a duplex each. And if I hadn't have took that shift, then I wouldn't have been able to actually leverage that. But it's definitely a mindset shift. And I say I went from broke Johnny to woke Johnny. And that kind of happened when I did that whole that change in 2015 when we flipped that first house, because it was like I was working for the military, but it was like, okay, I know I need to generate more income. I've always been a small business owner. I've done all kind of stuff from car wash, lawn business. When I was in high school, the summers in between college, kind of create my own little business. And it was like I can do so much more than just what I'm doing in my 9 to 5, what they're asking me to do. And so, and then I'm looking at my family. I don't want my wife to start working and doing that. And so I was like, okay, let's create a business for this. And I had to, it gets uncomfortable and it's challenging, but it was like the results on the back end, which I didn't know it was going to get to the point where it is now, where we've got a portfolio at right $8 million right now. We got a closing coming up that's going to push us over 11 million with this 56 unit. And it's just a blessing because in order for me to get there, I had to get uncomfortable. I had to take some risk. But I knew the journey to get there was going to be well worth it because my family meant that much to me. Achieving generational wealth meant that much to me. But I knew everything that had got me to that point in my career, in my life in 2015, that I was going to have to become a new person in order to achieve what I wanted to achieve in the future.
New person, new person, and I love that. You know, a lot of people that it seems like the big thing now is saying generational wealth, and even within your coaching business, I'm sure you also mentioned about that generational freedom aspect of it too, because we find ourselves, we enjoy what we do, serving our country, but there is some limitations in that. You know, we don't have some of the freedoms that we want to have as in the civilian sector. So once they overcome the mindset of it all, the challenge, the limiting beliefs, it makes it a lot easier to step into that. And I noticed that you have a challenge, a 500K challenge going on right now. You want to talk about that? Because I know it stems on with making a decision.
100%, 100%. Yeah. So it's not my challenge. So that's part of one of the mastermind groups that I'm a part of, seven figure flipping, that I joined last year. And the owner, Bill Allen, so he has a challenge that he had out with raising private money. And so leading up, we had our annual conference down in Orlando last weekend actually. And so part of that leading up to that conference was the 500K challenge. I fell behind. It was supposed to culminate, a couple of weeks ago, but I was like, going through and just doing the motion is really just to shed your secret identity. And this is something that I tell my clients, that you gotta let people know that you're a real estate investor. That because you have opportunities to help other people get returns on their money that they don't know how to invest. They got money sitting in CDs, it's just sitting in bonds, and they don't even know how to move it into, the different mutual funds and the options they have. And I think that's the thing that people don't realize. So it's really just the education, the 500K, just exposing it to more people that I'm a real estate investor. I can help you get a high return on your money. And in my case, I actually can teach you how to do it yourself. Whereas a lot of companies say, hey, give me your money, you can invest your money. But we actually also have a teaching arm, whereas for those that want to be hands on and they want to learn it, that we teach them how to go through and how you can build a business just like I did. And all my systems and everything that you need to do that. So that was the 500K challenge, was part of that, was seven figure flipping. One of my masterminds that I'm a part of, with just for my own professional development and just being around other high level real estate investors.
Right. And that ties in back to what you mentioned before. It's like the circle you keep, the individuals you stay around keeps you motivated. So, but you have to make a decision. And once you make that decision, it's kind of like how Bob Proctor says, a decision is only a commitment on steroids. So, and I totally get that, because you have to commit to what's important and why. Like for you, it was your family.
Mhm.
So that's
100%.
great.
I tell you, man, I'm so impressed that you came from humble beginnings. You still seem like a humble guy. You throw those numbers out like yeah, 8 million, they'll be up to 11. You just regular old Johnny, man. I dig that, and that's how people probably relate to you more, and comfortable because you ain't grabbing, you teaching. Like
Right.
you could give a homeless person money, but if you teach them like a trade, then you made it bigger than what it is, and that's that's awesome, man. So you active duty now?
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit over 17 years, man.
Okay, so what's your end game, man? You gonna have that going? You gonna see how far you go in the military? Or you gonna just chuck the military? What's your plan?
Oh man, Lord willing, man, 2 years from 10 months from now, I'll be able to retire, kind of walk up, hang the uniform up, and don't get me wrong, it's been a blessing to be in the military. I still love to serve, but it's like, okay, a lot of this I was gonna put to the back burner until I walked out the uniform. But it's like, no, people need this now. I can't sit on this for 3 years and wait to start helping people. But for me, man, it's the big journey for me is just continue to help people. I'm gonna start launching a monthly boot camp, real estate investing boot camp that you'll see coming out. A lot of that happening once a month to help people, and then we're looking to launch a private equity fund in the spring of next year. Whereas that those that want to be passive investors, whereas that they can join the fund and contribute to the fund, and we're gonna be buying multifamily assets, primarily across the southeast. And so we're working to put the team together with that here over the next few months, and unveiling that, and then just continue to just to serve, and serve the Air Force, but be able to still serve the veteran community, the government civilian community, and then serve my family at the same time. And just I'm a true proponent that the more you give, the more you're gonna receive. So I'm just looking for more opportunities to just bless other people and just give back and pour into other folks. to kind of be able to reap that harvest one day.
Excellent. Excellent.
That's- So Johnny, tell us this, brother. What's some of the I know you got a lot of things going on with your coaching business. You have your investing. Um, what are three resources or books or something that you would recommend to someone just starting out and looking to you know delve into real estate?
His book, of
Most
course.
definitely. I think Rich Dad Poor
Your
Dad,
books
Robert
being one.
Kiyosaki. I know it's
Your books
cliche
being
now.
number one.
Everybody says that, but I think that's a phenomenal book, especially depending on where you started in life, that it really exposes you to just that business and investor mindset, and kind of from there kind of gets those gears turning. And if that's the next level, then I say definitely check out my book, Millionaire Real Estate Success Strategies: What They Forgot to Teach You in School. Just because it exposes a lot of my stories and real estate investing ventures that we did in projects, but I interviewed a lot of other veterans as well too that are doing the same thing like me. That's becoming active investors while they're on the side, while they're still serving. They're doing a lot of cool things. Once they separate from the service or retire, and so I think that's definitely a good one as well too. And I think the other one I would say Grant Cardone 10X, that I think
Nice.
if we would do, because a lot of the work is the same, but if we put bigger goals out in front of us, that we would shock ourselves with what we would be able to achieve. And a lot of times we say we're gonna do one thing and we get there, it's like, oh, I could have did a whole lot more, but we don't really push ourselves. So I think if we kind of had that 10x mentality with everything that we do, whereas that we could definitely accomplish a whole lot more in a short amount of time. And that's one thing that we'll never get back is time. So, and I think a lot of times we wait. We'll start doing something like, oh, well, I'll do it later. Then a year goes by, another year, 5 years, and we still haven't taken action. And so I think we all can relate to that. And it's just how do we force ourselves to get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and then to really start taking action, like you said, become committed to achieving our dreams.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you're exactly right. And that was kind of the vision for the Boots to Suits podcast is to build a community of service members and veterans. And let's bring it into the spotlight of, how many rock stars we have out here that's doing it while in uniform that we never hear about just in the average everyday life. So, Corey and I came up with that concept to bring rock stars like you on here. So we definitely appreciate it. And I look forward to the journey and look to having you come back in the next couple of years. So, how would the audience reach out to you and connect with you if they want to for some coaching or looking to invest with you?
Hmm.
Definitely, and first off, man, I just want to say thank you for you guys having me on here. I love the mission that you guys are going off on with educating the veteran community, the active duty community, with having them just start thinking about some of these things sooner rather than later. So I think that's definitely a well needed mission that you guys are kind of going off and endeavor with that. But for me, JohnnyLineup.com is a great place to kind of link up with me for anything out there to find me. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, and the Military CEO on Instagram. And so, yeah, just continue just to give out more value and just help people, man.
Wow. Thank you. We definitely gonna make sure we get your information out there. Tag you, let it grow because that's how we gonna be big. That's how we gonna get all that knowledge in, man. And just talking to you now, I'm about to go do some research on Alabama. I feel like you gave
Come
me a
on.
plug. But no,
Yep.
real talk. But I really appreciate that because, like you said, there's so many veterans out here that's doing so many amazing things, and we kind of just we talk about it, but now there's an avenue to kind of speak about it. I like woke Johnny. Woke Johnny is where it's at.
Exactly, exactly. I forgot to mention too, man, my free Facebook group that's out there,
Okay.
Cash Flow Real Estate Investment Club,
Okay.
where they can get a lot of free educational stuff out there too. So I got to start pushing that too, whereas that they can plug in if they're looking for real estate investing, kind of go through and get started.
Definitely. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you so much.
Well, John, hey, again, hey, brother, appreciate your time. You're welcome back anytime onto the show. And we definitely want to keep in contact with you. So thank you again. And we look forward to all your future endeavors, brother.
Definitely.
Yep. Thank you guys.
All
Thank
right.
you, brother.